Today we're making a solid copper rose, and what I've got here today is 1-inch copper plumbing pipe. I usually use 3/4 inch. I didn't have any in inventory. Had this to save a trip in town. I'll just have more waste. 3/4 inch saves on waste, and it's quite a bit cheaper actually. We'll slice it, flatten them out, knock our petals out, and keep rolling. Start by cutting 45s off each corner, turn it into an octagon, then come back and cut the sharp points off, turn it into something close to a circle. You can also use a compass and a center mark, draw it out, cut it exact. I don't do that. I personally like slight imperfections. Use a center finder, mark the center. I do it 3 different directions. Kind of just eyeball the center in there a little bit. These are your 3 different petals, and what I'm working on right now is the top petal, which is 2.5 inches. Bottom petal is 2 inches, and you have 1 3/4 and 2.5, and the way it pulls up, the very top petal comes out and has a life to its own. I really like that look better. You can go in the opposite direction. You can add 1 3/4, 2 inch, and 2 1/4 if you want to stack them all, so it's more of a even flat topped flowing type of a rose. That's a 5 petal here. 1.5 through 2.5 inch by 1/4 inch increments. The one I'm going to be making today out of solid copper will match this. And this top petal right here just ends up projecting out, giving it a life of its own. I really enjoy that look a lot better. And I'll just throw that down. Get your center points. Use a pair of vice grips. I welded some washers on too to hold these. That way you don't have to worry about spinning in your hands. That hurts. And 9/64 drill bit. It's going to turn out just perfect for 1/8 inch grounding wire that I'm going to use for the stem. Then I use a 632 threaded die to chase the threads on the end of it. From here, I need 5 different sets of petals. Since I didn't make an exact circle, there's a little extra point out here, since I'm going to nip the corners. And I try to leave a heavy 1/8 inch, maybe 3/16 from the center, where there's a little extra meat there. I'm just going to eyeball these around. I've done enough of them eyeballing it, works easier for me. You can do diameter times pi divided by 5. Now that I've got the relatively equidistant 5 different petals, come in, knock the corners off. Then from there, knock these other little corners off and you'll end up with a mostly rounded corner. It gives a very nice flowing effect. Use a dull cross peen hammer is what I like. I don't like a real sharp edge. I like the way the grooves come out with a dollar. Inch, 1 3/4, 2.5 inch. You'll see the reason I stack them this way as we continue going forward. What I've rigged up here to get the top pedal started, I've got a piece of pipe with a brake line shoved through it and a self-starting screw. And this is how I get my first pedal really rounded out and going good. You don't need to do this. If I were only going to build 1 or 2 roses, I would not do this. I've spent the summer building 500 roses, so streamlining seemed like the best way to go for me. Hold that in pliers if you're doing this at home. Don't take a chance of cutting your hand. As you can see, I'll wrap the first one around. Very first pedal, get it started to get the bend started. If I wanted a wider one, I could use this end up here for a completely different effect. Make sure you put the textured side towards the screw. You'll see once we start bending it into place how the textures should come through. Sometimes on softer copper they'll disappear. Sheet metal, they're usually pretty good. Then I'll look and find one that I don't have to fight with much. That one there was already in place. So I'll get it going. It's a little off center. Feel the taps, try to get it centered. Try to get in here where I can swing good. First one started. We'll mount them all up before I do anything else. Got a 632 stud with a nut backer. I've got a 632 acorn nut. So order operation is going to be 2-inch pedal, 1 3/4 pedal. And as you're setting these up, you can move them around because they're all slightly a little different. Find out where it fits the best. But you're going to stagger them half off. Each pedal has to be half off the last pedal. And then this one's a 2.5. Put it right on top. Put your acorn nut down. What we're going to try, hopefully, to achieve is getting the lacquer dip, shellac dip to hold it in place. And if it don't, I can show you how to get through that. That's too easy. Then what I've had pretty good luck with for the mounting fixture is use a pair of side cutters. Leave it, I don't know, about 3/8 of an inch sticking out, give or take, maybe half. Doesn't really matter. And we'll stick it on our holding fixture, make it easier on our hands here. What I do to make it easier to hold is I've got a 632 all thread coupling nut that I drove right down into a 3/8 coupling nut, and I drop it into a 9/16 socket just to be able to hold on to it a little bit better, make it easier on the fingers. And then from there, we'll start sculpting. To sculpt them, I use a little miniature pair of pliers that I took a grinder and smoothed out the jaws. That way it won't leave marks. Pull that up round about dead center. And you're looking to grab, I don't know if you can see it on here or not, probably a heavy 1/16, maybe going on 1/8 of an inch. I don't want them so tight that they actually grip down like they just did. Get them adjusted there. Start peeling, rolling that edge back. Just get a little form to it. Just get it all the edges pulled out, and there's 100 different ways to do it. This is just the way I'm doing this one. We come in with the very corner, grip it, just roll it out at a 45-degree angle just to put a little crinkle in it. Added a little texture so it catches the light different. Try to keep a good straight line eyeball on your nut. That'll make it easier later. Probably if it doesn't hold with the finishes, you have to reach down there and try to hold it with a screwdriver. I'll show you how to do that later. I go in a counterclockwise fashion. Get started bending around. Channel locks are my friend. See that straight edge there, so I'll come in, try to manipulate that back to partly round. Pull it down so I can get my vice grips in there on it. I'll snug it in, make it fit real dreamy. Commit to 45, just with the corners. The order of operation, once you hit your last pedal, it's the very next one in line. It's half off. Once again, half off. That way you can keep them. If you do it the same way every time, if you have to assemble them, you know how they'll fit back together with minimal amount of work. It still requires some. The copper and steel rips. I don't know if you can just see it or not, but it just ripped right here. When I get to that point, I accentuate it, just like I did on the last one. Go ahead and just rip them apart from each other. There's no hiding it, so you might as well accentuate it. That's one way. This point right here standing out. Look, like it's jumping out of the circle. I remember that today. So I can pull it down just a little bit. Something jumps out of your eye not looking right, don't be scared to cut it out of there. There's nothing we can't fix that we're not putting into this. Even if you gotta build a whole new pedal. Well, you don't need to finish an all copper rose to keep it from tarnishing. I prefer maybe the chatoyancy, the effect of the gloss coming off of it. But the first 2 coats, I mixed 50-50 with a brushing lacquer. It's a matte finish, which I don't like as well. And the very last coat, I mixed 50-50 with shellac. All the drips out of it. Right back into the oven, keep it warm. So they don't heat the shop. It seems to help it flash off a little bit. Keeps the moisture out of it. Do that for 2 coats of lacquer and 1 or 2 coats of shellac, probably just 1 coat of shellac. Take the copper stem and hopefully get more of a green than a blue effect. I don't really know how to get the difference between them, but I've got salt and vinegar inside a sprayer. I'm going to saturate it really good. I've got the threads protected with a coupling nut. I'm going to add some extra salt to the stem, see if it'll stick. Let's just get stupid with it. Now I've got ammonia and on some rags here in this bucket. I got some wires at the top to suspend it. Then I'll let it hang for, I'll check it about 30 minutes. Everything I ever watch says 30 minutes, but I found about 45 to an hour I get the more of the colors I like. So I don't know. We'll come back and check it. We'll let that ammonia fume while we wrap up the rest of the details. Got it out of the ammonia fume, ran it through the toaster oven to dry it out, and I put 2 coats of clear coat on it. Salt's a little heavier than I want. Maybe next time I'll run it through a mortar and pestle, thin it out, see if that makes a difference. Have the threads protected with this coupling nut. Oops. Checking to make sure the A-core nut isn't rolling. If it does, we'll have to reach in and grab it with a flat tip screwdriver. We might have lucky. The shellac might have held it in place. Very gently, slowly. Yeah, hopefully it took. Success.